Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the University of Virginia Law School faculty.
Good afternoon. Please join me in thanking the Massanutten Brass Quintet, which has provided our musical entertainment. Welcome to the graduates of the class of 2014, and welcome to the mothers, fathers, husbands, wives, friends, and relatives whose love and encouragement made today possible. The parents in the audience understand how your professors feel today. We are immensely proud of what you've achieved, excited about your future, but sad to see you go. I ask the graduates to stand and join me in a round of applause to honor and thank your family. Several of the family members in the audience are alumni of the law school. One of them, Judge Bert Sachs, received his degree in 1958 but could not attend his graduation for family reasons. He will be hooded today alongside his granddaughter, Shira Furman, a member of the class of 2014. In August 2011, you walked into Kaplan Auditorium, brimming with talent, motivation, and concern. I remarked to you then that we would both be amazed at how quickly the next 3 years would pass. And they did pass quickly. I also said that I was confident that you would look back on your years here as some of the most intellectually stimulating, interesting, and fun years of your lives. And I believe they were, based on my own experiences teaching and working with you. You immersed yourselves in the study of a new and complex field. You welcomed the intellectual challenges that awaited you and met them energetically. But you did not focus focus just on yourselves. You raised money and donated your time to countless important causes. Indeed, your engagement with the outside world has been remarkable and noteworthy. The class of 2014 collectively put in 17,995 hours in pro bono activities in assistance of those who could not afford legal representation. This is a record for any class in our history. 105 of you met the pro bono challenge by performing 75 or more hours of pro bono service while in law school. This, too, is a record. You continued traditions of supporting the Charlottesville community. The North Ground Softball League's 31st annual invitational drew a record 1,700 law students who fielded 117 teams from 61 law schools to Charlottesville, and in the process raised over $25,000 that went to support the local nonprofit Children, Youth, and Family Services, the Mediation Center of Charlottesville, and the Law School's Public Interest Association. Your class launched an innovative year-long public service program in which each first-year small section selected a charity to support. Through creative fundraising projects such as Penny Wars and No Shave November, just to mention two, you supported a dozen charities, including Habitat for Humanity of Greater Charlottesville, the Charlottesville Free Clinic, the Virginia Institute of Autism, and the Wounded Warrior Project. You distinguished yourselves in other pursuits. Under your leadership, our 10 student-run journals published a total of 36 issues. In March, the Virginia Law Review published issue 1 of volume 100. Your classmates organized and hosted events featuring legal scholars, practitioners, and judges. Members of your class argued before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit, drafted legislation signed into law in Virginia, helped exonerate a man wrongfully incarcerated, helped a victim of human trafficking gain lawful immigration status, and won the prestigious Jean Pictet International Humanitarian Law Competition. Most importantly, you acquired a powerful new set of skills, the lawyer's ability to analyze and express ideas with clarity and precision. These skills are the primary stock in trade of a practicing lawyer, but they are much more than that. Anyone who has observed a well-trained lawyer's talent for solving problems and zeroing in on the most important fact or issue will not be surprised that the President of the United States, the Vice President, 8 members of the President's Cabinet, almost a third of the members of Congress, including our speaker today, the CEOs of 14 of the nation's 100 largest companies, countless entrepreneurs, and even the commissioners of the NBA, the NHL, and the PGA are lawyers. You are trained to be leaders, and you will be, in your careers, in your communities, and in some cases in elected or appointed government service. I have no doubt that at some future reunion of the class of 2014, we will all celebrate the many ways that you will succeed in the coming years. Your law school is proud of you and confident of your future. It has been a pleasure for those of us on stage to watch you grow intellectually and personally. We send you on your way today with our complete admiration, our affection, and most of all, our congratulations. Brian Park, your student body president, will introduce our speaker. Brian received his undergraduate degree from Clemson University in 2010 and expects to receive a master's degree in economics from that university this year. Following law school, Brian will join the Atlanta office of the law firm King & Spalding. Well known for his bow ties, Brian has contributed to the vitality of the law school through his work with the Student Bar Association, the Virginia Journal of International Law, and the Peer Advisor Program. It has been a pleasure to work with him this year. Brian.
Thank you, Dean Mahoney. Good afternoon, distinguished faculty, honored guests, and the Virginia Law Class of 2014. As the outgoing president of the Student Bar Association and the president of our graduating class, it is my honor to first offer a few remarks to my fellow graduates and our friends and family here today. Second, to announce the class of 2014's gift to the University of Virginia School of Law. And finally, to introduce our distinguished speaker, Congressman Joseph Kennedy III. First and foremost, on behalf of all the graduates, I would like to express our most sincere gratitude for our friends, family, and loved ones both those that are here today and those that could not be here. The journey through 3 years of law school is an arduous one, but not just for law students. My roommate and his wonderful wife got married in December, but have spent the first 5 months of their marriage apart while he finished law school. Some in our class came to law school with young children, children who invariably wish they could have seen more of their law school parents. Finally, many, if not most, in the audience today have fielded countless panicked phone calls, talked us through impending nervous breakdowns, and helped manage our Armageddon-like crises, particularly during our 1L years, particularly during journal tryout weekend. For that, we all owe you our undying gratitude. So while the diplomas today awarded will only bear one name, today's celebration is for all of us, graduates, families, and friends. Because without your love and support, we would not be here today. Graduates, let's show our friends and family our gratitude one more time with a round of applause. But let us not forget, we graduates had to work pretty hard too. Indeed, our challenges over the last 3 years have come in a variety of flavors. Of course, there were the primary academic challenges, the challenging coursework in classes like administrative law, the Supreme Court litigation clinic, securities regulation with Dean Mahoney, and of course, sports law. There were the other scholastic challenges, such as writing our student notes, our moot court briefs, and the countless hours of blue booking spent doing all of them. And finally, there were those challenges that one can only call challenges of a different order entirely. The insurance industry would call these challenges acts of God. They include surviving the great earthquake of 2011 during our first week in Charlottesville, surviving the great honeybee pestilence of 2012, while simultaneously interviewing for the most important jobs of our lives thus far, and last but not least, surviving all of the snows. Let it never be said that UVA Law Class of 2014 lacks persistence. So congratulations, graduates. We've learned a lot of law over the last 3 years, and hopefully some solid survival skills as well. At this time, it is my honor to formally announce the Class of 2014's gift to the University of Virginia School of Law. 297 members of our graduating class, over 85%, pledged to support our law school in the next 4 years. 85% alumni participation is not simply impressive, it is almost unheard of. I say almost unheard of because the University of Virginia is a clear outlier in this regard. Over the last 10 years, each graduating class has surpassed 80% graduate participation. This is a clear indication that our graduates believe that not only does the UVA Law offer a fantastic product, but UVA Law is an institution in whose mission, purpose, and future each of us believes and is eager to invest. So to those that have contributed to our class gift, thank you for investing in the future of our law school and for making our alma mater a stronger place for those to come in the future. An old Greek proverb says that society grows when old men plant trees in whose shade they shall never sit. Now, if the Greeks were really as wise as they're given credit for being, I think they would have let old women plant trees too. Nevertheless, their point is well taken. I believe that our class's generosity stems not just from a desire to enhance the UVA experience, but a profound love for the place where we've spent 3 years. The University of Virginia has distinguished itself among its peers as a place where students find value, not just in the classroom, but also in the relationships that we create and the memories that we share. Graduates and alumni reflect upon their time at UVA and undoubtedly remember the intellectual growth that has happened here, the brilliant professors and the peers who have each sharpened our legal and analytical skills. However, UVA Law graduates also remember the memories shared among our 1L sections, at the Peel auction, at Barrister's Ball, and on Copley Field. We remember visiting wineries with our classmates and nights at the Biltmore. And for some, we remember singing God Bless the USA on the tables of the Virginian. But most of all, we remember the friends that have made this place so special, because just as important as our intellectual growth are the relationships that we've made and the friendships that will last a lifetime. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Congressman Joseph Kennedy III. Congressman Kennedy is a graduate of Stanford University, where he majored in management science. After he graduated, Congressman Kennedy served for 2 years in the Peace Corps in the Dominican Republic before enrolling in Harvard Law School. After graduating from law school, Congressman Kennedy served as an assistant district attorney and was later elected to the Massachusetts 4th Congressional District to serve in the United States House of Representatives. Congressman Kennedy's commitment to public service is exemplary and also very fitting. His grandfather, Robert Kennedy, class of 1951, showed a similar commitment to public service and is the namesake of the Robert F. Kennedy Fellowship, which a number of our graduates will receive. Most of all, Congressman Kennedy is an incredible, kind, personable, and humble individual. Of the 535 members of Congress, I can honestly say he's the only one that has ever said to me, "Seriously, Brian, just call me Joe." The class of 2014 is both grateful and honored to welcome our distinguished guest, Congressman Joe Kennedy III.
Brian, thank you for that extremely gracious introduction. I hesitate to figure out how many members of Congress are actually named Joe, but I hope it's not that many. King and Spalding is incredibly lucky to have you next year, and congratulations to you, your family, and your tenure here at UVA. Dean Mahoney, thank you for the great privilege of participating in this weekend's events. From corporate law to academia to the halls of the Supreme Court and the horizons of legal reform overseas, there's not a piece of our legal system that you have not touched. Thank you for your service, your vision, and your dogged dedication to the law. To the class of 2014 and all of your family, your friends, your faculty, and your fellow Cavaliers, congratulations on an extraordinary achievement. You have survived countless hours in the law library, a few too many long nights at the Biltmore, endless caffeine drips at Greenberry's, and your fair share of NGSL nail-biters between teams like Yo Come Party, Jailbait, and even more team names that I will resist mentioning in a family affair. All of that behind you, and now the only thing standing between you and that diploma is me. There's a common saying out there that the 3 best years you'll have as a lawyer are your 3 years in law school. And I've heard that's especially true at UVA. So I figured I'd give you all a little bit more time to soak it in. Go on and get comfortable. It is an honor for me to be here today. As you know, and as Brian just mentioned, my family has a long tradition here at this institution. My grandfather earned his law degree here in 1951. His brother, Senator Kennedy, followed in his footsteps, as did my uncles, Bobby, Michael, and Max. Now, part of that tradition stems from a deep appreciation for the caliber of the legal education that UVA offers. And another part was a recognition that, in a pinch, it's always good to have a family member or two steeped in Virginia law. This was a well-learned lesson. As my grandmother likes to tell it, while our family was living in McLean and my grandfather was the Attorney General, my grandma spotted a starving, neglected horse on a neighbor's farm and organized an undercover rescue operation to save it and to provide it with a more doting owner. Some might call that theft. The neighbor was, understandably, furious. And my grandmother ended up in court, which was pretty serious given that horse theft at one time in Virginia was, in fact, a hanging offense. Luckily, the jury let her off, although I imagine it was an interesting conversation that night between her and the Attorney General. In case you want a little bit of insight into my grandmother, she was once asked if she would ever again steal a starving horse, and she said, quote, "I don't think I could live with myself if I didn't." Graduates, it was just a few years ago that I was sitting exactly where all of you are. And while I did manage to get my diploma, my law school career did not get off to the most auspicious start. I'll never forget walking into my first class, contracts. I'd read the case, Hawkinson versus McGee, and remember being pretty grossed out that there was somebody that got a hairy hand back in the 1920s. I got to class a few minutes early, made a beeline straight for the back row, head down, notes out, books open, attempting to be as under the radar as somebody with this color hair could ever possibly be. Turns out, it was assigned seating, and as luck would have it, there was Kennedy, big bold letters, right up front. I sit down. A few minutes later, our professor comes whizzing into the room, drops an enormous pile of books on the table. Without missing a beat, turns around, looks directly at me, says, "All right, let's get started. Mr. Kennedy, what's the definition of a sumpsit?" No hi, no hello, no good morning, no welcome to law school. I don't know. You don't know. I don't know. Mr. Kennedy, did you do your reading? Yeah, I did the reading. So you realize assumpsit is the first word in your reading. Yeah, I actually circled it because I didn't know what it meant. Mr. Kennedy, do you own a dictionary? Oh, I haven't had a chance to get one yet. Mr. Kennedy, that's what people do when they don't know what a word means. They look it up in the dictionary. Is there anyone in the class that can help Mr. Kennedy? I swear to God, every single hand went up. Including, I have to say, the hand of a cute girl in the back of the room that I somehow managed to feel so bad for me that she agreed to marry me a few years later. As she would remind me, that few years was 7 years later. That professor, she went on to become our senior United States Senator from Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren. And I came to realize, in fact, that Professor Warren didn't do me a great favor, because no matter what else was to happen over the rest of my tenure in law school, it couldn't possibly be as humiliating as those first 30 seconds. So I worked hard to redeem myself over the next 3 years, and on the day that I graduated, I was on a stage very much like this one, walking across, ready to get my diploma. And of course, she was the one to hand it to me. But she couldn't help resist asking me one more time before she let it go, what is the definition of assumpsit? Thankfully, I was able to come up with the answer. So here's, to the graduates, the only advice I will give you today. Either buy a dictionary or marry someone who knows the answer. It's good advice, what can I say? Thank you. It's definitely the only applause I ever got anywhere near law school. Graduates, there are a few lessons that I could share with you today that this proud and patriotic institution has not already deeply instilled within you. Nearly 2 centuries ago, Thomas Jefferson founded the University of Virginia to be unlike any other in our young nation, an institution of higher education, quote, on which the fortunes of our country may depend, he wrote in 1821. A place that would train students not just for the halls of academia or the courtrooms of our judicial system, but for the trenches of public service, so that graduates educated here would graduate not just with a degree, but with a purpose. In your 3 years here at Charlottesville, this class, the most competitive in the history of UVA law, has proudly shouldered that tradition. You've exonerated a man wrongly accused. You sent an immigration reform bill to the desk of this governor. You used the law to champion issues from autism to housing to wounded warriors and human rights. Tomorrow, each of you will carry your piece of this experience into a country weathering stormy seas, an economy still searching for its footing, threats to our foreign policy the world over, political battles so deep and divisive that they literally ground our government to a halt. But worst of all, a loss of faith, a slowly spreading suspicion that maybe this American experiment has peaked. Now, it would be easy to think that this is not your problem, that it's those clowns in government that are giving the system a bad name. But folks, this is more than your problem. This is your purpose. The very challenge that your founder imagined that one day you might rise to meet, that you would be the ones to prove that our system works. It is the foundation on which Jefferson's American experiment depends, that the politics of the day and the passions of the moment would be anchored by the rule of law. And that rule of law, that compass of justice, would carry us forward slowly, surely, steadily, even when our humanity might get in the way. Class of 2014, this is the responsibility and the opportunity lying at your feet. Our laws are the vehicle by which we improve, the mechanism that holds us accountable to the standards that we set for ourselves, the promise made and kept by one generation to the next to build an ever more perfect union. To quote a man who graduated from this very place some 60 years ago, law, my grandfather said, is the form that free men give to justice. As students and soon-to-be practitioners of the law, you become guardians and guarantors of this form today, whether you like it or not. Some of you will write laws, some of you will challenge them, some will enforce them, some will interpret them, some might even break them. All of you will defend them, and in that process, improve them. At the University of Virginia, this is your legacy, your life's work, your problem, and your purpose. This school was founded by a man who declared that, quote, the two enemies of the people are criminals and government, yet dedicated his life to building the latter because he knew that the values that he held above all else, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, would only survive if there was a system in place to protect them and a people willing to hold that system accountable. Because it has never been our government that defines us, but we who define our government. Of course, as generations of lawyers who have come before you can attest, this has never been an easy task. Every lawyer I've ever met has a story or two to carry with them, to light their ways on the tougher days. Mine comes not from a courtroom or a classroom, but from a hot summer day on the streets of Boston. A few months after jumping into my first campaign, 2012, I signed up to march in the Boston Pride Parade with retiring Congressman Barney Frank. For those of you who have ever been to a Pride Parade, you can picture the scene. Block after block of dancing, banners, confetti, and general chaos. And for those of you who have a sense of Barney Frank, you can imagine that he was not particularly amused by any of those things, let alone by the fact that it was about 90 degrees and the parade started about 2 hours too late. We finally got underway. And for the next few hours, I walked by his side as person after person pushed back the sidewalk barriers and rushed up to him with tears in their eyes. Thank you, Congressman. Congressman, thank you. You changed my life. For 3 miles, it was a chorus of people as they bid farewell to a man who entered public office when such a parade was impossible. 32 years later, he was fighting back tears of his own, proudly holding his soon-to-be husband's hand through the streets of a city that was beaming with love, with support, and gratitude. It's another chapter in that story. The following year, I was back at the Pride Parade again with Congressman Frank. This time, we were joined by my college roommate and professional basketball player, Jason Collins. Jason had recently become the first active male athlete to come out as gay in our major professional sports. He credited with watching the Pride Parade the year before with helping him find the courage to speak up. So on that hot June day, an African-American basketball player stood next to a retired Jewish congressman and a pasty-white, red-haired Irish Catholic. The three of us marched through the streets of Boston in a scene that our forefathers could never have imagined. That is why our laws matter. Because we can't predict the brightness of our own future. Because the new frontiers create challenges that demand a 238-year-old system try to catch up, even if it takes decade upon decade upon decade to make it happen. Last year, I had the honor of meeting a lawyer named Mary Bonato. Mary was a lead counsel on a court case before the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court called Goodrich v. Department of Public Health, a case that made Massachusetts the very first state in the nation to legalize same-sex marriage 10 years ago this very weekend. But it wasn't that fact that impressed me most, or the fact that she had taken her fight to every state house in New England before marching it to the doors of the Supreme Court. No. It was the work that she had done for 20 years before. The quiet decades that she'd put into the grittier, less glamorous battles, from the AIDS epidemic to equality in housing, public accommodations, and adoption. She had been laying this groundwork for years, with people like Congressman Frank, hundreds of thousands of lawyers and advocates who toiled in the trenches of our legal and legislative system without credit or fanfare. Long before there was ever hope of public opinion on their side, before Jason Collins and Michael Sam became household names, before the Supreme Court would consider that a law claiming to defend marriage could actually degrade it, before a judge in the great Commonwealth of Virginia would declare that, quote, "We have arrived upon another moment in history when we the people becomes more inclusive and our freedom more perfect," as she deemed a ban on same-sex marriage unconstitutional. Graduates, your story, our story, is the work of countless quiet heroes who came before us. You and I, we have never known a country where men and women could be bought and sold, where newspapers run ads that say no Irish need apply, and water fountains are labeled colored. We have never worked in a place that could refuse to hire a woman, or lived in a place that could refuse to shelter someone with disabilities. Now the future is ours to form, so that someday, 30 years from now, your children and mine will be on stages like this one and say that they've never known a country where you could be fired from a job because of who you love, or paid less because of your gender, where skin color could still obstruct access to the ballot box, where the system that Americans have fought for and bled for is looked upon with disappointment and distrust rather than admiration and pride. It is easy in law and government to get swept up in the big victories, in the poetry, in the pomp and circumstance, the triumph of justice sought and secured. And to forget that long before the moments that take your breath away, there was a person whose name you don't know, sitting in a windowless office you will never see, with nothing more than a case file, a telephone, a cup of coffee, a stack of books, and a degree that looks an awful lot like the one you are about to receive. Groundwork, vigilance, case by case, hour by hour, person by person. This is the legwork of our imperfect, ever-evolving system, day in and day out, a system maddening yet inspiring, petty yet grand, painfully slow and relentlessly steady. A system that no one person, political party, or ideology can claim. It belongs to every single one of us, ours to debate and discuss, ponder and pressure and shape. And when we do that right, and we do that well, the course of our history is changed. Class of 2014, this is your purpose: to steadily bend the arc of our beloved country towards justice, no matter the headwinds of the day, to prove that the brightest days are yet to come, and that we can still do big and bold things, not despite of our humanity, but because of it. Your country is waiting. May you work every day to make her as good and as graceful as you know she can be. Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you, Congressman Kennedy. One of the most enjoyable parts of this ceremony is the opportunity to recognize some of those who have contributed so much to the law school and the community over the last 3 years. The awards to be presented today to members of the class of 2014 are described briefly on the back page of your program. Listed there are honors and awards already conferred upon members of the graduating class. The award recipients we honor today have not previously been so recognized. Indeed, most will not have been aware of their selection before I call their names. If your name is called, please stand to be recognized. Recipients will be presented the awards themselves as they cross the stage to receive their diplomas. The Virginia State Bar Family Law Book Award. Established by the Family Law Section of the Virginia State Bar and the Virginia chapter of the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers, and presented to the graduating student who has demonstrated the most promise and potential for the practice of family law. The 2014 recipient was on the Articles Review Board of the Virginia Journal of Social Policy and the Law, Megan Elizabeth Loftus. The Virginia Trial Lawyers Association Trial Advocacy Award, presented to a graduate who shows particular promise in the field of trial advocacy. The 2014 recipient has volunteered with the Albemarle County Public Defender's Office, Shannon Marie Pollock. The Eppa Hunton IV Memorial Book Award, given by the Associates of the Richmond law firm Hunton & Williams in honor of the late Mr. Hunton, class of 1927, and presented to a graduate who demonstrates unusual aptitude in courses in the field of litigation and who shows a keen awareness and understanding of the trial lawyer's ethical and professional responsibility. The 2014 recipient was also a recipient of the James M. Shoemaker Jr. Moot Court Award and was on the editorial board of the Virginia Environmental Law Journal, Hunter Joseph Kendrick. The John M. Olin Prize in Law and Economics, presented on behalf of the Olin Program to a student who has produced outstanding written work in the field of law and economics. The 2014 recipient was the vice chair of the William Minor Lyle Moot Court Board and an articles editor for the Virginia Law Review, and receives the award for her paper, An Empirical Analysis of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, Ann Hampton Lippett. The Earl K. Shaw Labor Relations Award, established by Mr. Shaw, class of 1934, and presented to the graduate who shows the greatest promise in the field of labor relations. The 2014 recipient was articles editor for the Virginia Journal of Law and Politics, Claire E. Kenny. The Edwin S. Cohen Tax Prize, established by the late Professor Cohen and presented to the graduate who has demonstrated superior scholarship in the tax field. There are two 2014 recipients of the Cohen Tax Prize. They are both members of the editorial board of the Virginia Law Review, Alexander Brian Debris and Isaac Wood. The Mortimer Kaplan Public Service Award, established by Mr. Kaplan, class of 1940, who has long been associated with the law faculty and the law school, and presented to a graduate entering a career in the public service sector who demonstrates the qualities of leadership, integrity, and service to others. The 2014 of the Kaplan Award was also a recipient of the Ritter Prize for Extraordinary Honor, Character, and Integrity, and was the managing editor for notes development for the Virginia Journal of International Law, Sabrina Asghari Talukder. The Herbert Kramer Herbert Bangle Community Service Award, established by the late Mr. Kramer, class of 1952, and presented to the graduate who has contributed the most to the community during his or her time in law school. The 2014 recipient also received the 2014 Powell Fellowship in Legal Services Award and was the managing director of the Public Interest Law Association, Mario David Salas. The Roger and Madeline Traynor Prize, established by the late Chief Justice Traynor and his wife and presented to two graduates who have produced outstanding written work. The first recipient is on the editorial board of the Virginia Law Review. He is also the recipient of the Law School Alumni Association Best Note Award, presented to the member of the graduating class who authored the best note in a current volume of a law school publication. He wins both awards for his paper, Full of Sound and Fury, Signifying Nothing, Reconceptualizing Consent Decrees to Empirically Expose Industry's Strawman Attack on Environmental Litigation, Joseph Benjamin Tyson. The second recipient of the 2014 Traynor Prize was a notes editor for the Virginia Law Review and receives the award for his paper, The Significance of Parental Domicile Under the Citizenship Clause, Justin Andrew Lowellman. The Robert E. Golston Award for Distinction in the Classroom, established by Mr. Golston, class of 1940, and presented by vote of the faculty to the graduate who has contributed the most to classroom education by his or her outstanding recitation and discussion. The 2014 recipient was the Senior Development Editor for the Virginia Law and Business Review, Stuart Archer Inman. The Z Society Shannon Award, presented to the graduate with the highest academic record after 5 semesters. The 2014 recipient was an articles editor for the Virginia Law Review, Benjamin Charles Wood. The Faculty Award for Academic Excellence, presented to the graduate with the highest academic record after 6 semesters. This award will be presented in the fall. We're grading as fast as we can. The Thomas Marshall Miller Prize, established by Emily Miller Danton in honor of her father, who attended the law school, and presented by vote of the faculty to an outstanding and deserving member of the graduating class. The 2014 recipient was notes editor for the Virginia Journal of International Law, Caroline Susan Schmidt. The James C. Slaughter Honor Award, established in honor of the late Mr. Slaughter, class of 1951, and presented by vote of the faculty to an outstanding member of the graduating class. The 2014 recipient was also awarded the Ritter Prize for Extraordinary Honor, Character, and Integrity, and was the managing editor of the Virginia Law Review, Simon Joseph Cataldo. The Margaret G. Hyde Award, established by the late Forrest J. Hyde, Jr. of the class of 1915 and presented by vote of the faculty to the graduate whose scholarship, character, personality, activities in the affairs of the school, and promise of achievement have entitled him or her to special recognition. The 2014 recipient was the fundraising director of the Public Interest Law Association and the editor-in-chief of the Virginia Law Review, Sarah Buckley. Before presenting the diplomas, I have the happy duty of informing you that Laura Petro, the Director of Young Alumni Development and Donor Relations for the Law School Foundation, will be stationed at the end of the stage to my left to present each graduate on behalf of the Alumni Association with a memento of the law school. We will now prepare the stage for the presentation of diplomas.
I will now call the roll of the graduates for the presentation of the diplomas. For the degree of Juris Doctor, Vincent Wilson Abruzes. Ragini Ajay Acharya. Benjamin Frank Aiken. Michael Albert. Nicholas James Allman. David Lee Amos. Norman Anderson. Alexandra Atonova. David Ashner. Catherine Bagley. Michael Colin Baker. James Edward Barolo. Kathleen Drew Barrington. Brent Beckert. Jacqueline Christine Bell. Chelsea Lauren Belote. Grace Belosky. Brittany Birnbaum. Robin Kylene Bittner. Corbin Bryce Blackford. Benjamin Armand Bodurian. Sean Matthew Bodeker. Jonathan Ellis Boljesic. Julia Frances Boyer. Christine Beatrice Breton. Michael Brito Stam. Anthony Brown. Nicholas Edward Brown. Jennifer Laura Breyer. Lindsay Marie Buchanan. Sarah Buckley. William Brandon Bull. Derek Jonathan Bunker. Scott Adam Burton. Katrina E. Carlson. Kelly Christina Camp. Andrea Nicole Canfield. Michelle Marie Carmen. Aaron Neal Carpenter. AJ Carroll. Evan Coleman Carter. Ronika Julene Carter. Michael Carter Cash. Sharon Michelle Casola. Cynthia Alicio Castillo. Simon Joseph Cataldo. James Hamilton Calkins. Bryce Dunn Chadwick. Michael Chow. Andy Chen. Wan Lee Chen. Logan Bruce Christensen. Caitlin Marie Sapiccio. James Philip Clarkin Breslin. Maxwell Paul Clayton. Heather Coe. Ryan Lewis Comer. Ryan Lewis Connor. Sorry, Ryan. Robert John Conti. Marta Page Cook. Jessica Cunningham. Veronica Ray Dahmer. Haley Lorraine Darling. Joseph Charles Tucker Davis. Alexander Brian Debris. Elsie Marie Debris. Sarah Elizabeth Delaney. Roshan Dillon. Diana Dickinson. Elena Dillard. Robert Joseph Dressel. Ian Grant Duffy. Brooks Alexander Duncan. Daniel Charles Eagles. Shimmy Edwards. Dustin Charles Elliott. Joseph Dodd Fairbank. Crystal Fang. Catherine Elizabeth Feda. Salvatore Favuza. Emily Jacqueline Feeder. James Wesley Fisher. Ronald James Fisher. Francesca Sarah Fitch. Samantha Francis Fold. Alexander Bryce Foster. Glenn James Folds. Abigail Emily Marie Lee Friedman. Shira Beth Furman. Ian Gallagher. Kevin Michael Gallagher. Timothy Patrick Gallivan. Victoria Rose Galvez. Sadie Gardner. Emily Gage Gatzemeyer. David Reese Gerard. Jillian Rebecca Gianetti. Madeline Markells Gibson. Amanda Jean May Gill. Christine Shue Gilliland. Aaron Gober Sims. Sharif Gray. Paul Maxwell Griffith. Caroline Joanna Guido. John Gunter. Joy Guo. Samuel Bernard Guthrie. Stephen Michael Gwynn. Lauren Hagee. Christopher James Hamill. Jonathan D. Hammond. Laura Prebeck Hong. Mingda Hong. Emily Gordon Hankin. John W. H. Harding. Kieran David Hartley. Jacob Egley Hassler. Benjamin Timothy Christian Hayes. Madeline Elizabeth Healy. Christopher Graham Higbee. Drew Bennett Hollander. Kenneth James Hoover. Russell Hill Horn. Stuart Archer Inman. Clay Reed Jacob Jr. Julianne Francis Jaquith. Chad Michael Jennings. Evan Cole Johnson. Janelle Robin Johnson. Mariah Travis Johnston. Austin Matthew Jones. Brian Jones. Kelsey Rose Jones. Carrie Christine Jones. Sydney Virginia Jones. Justin Aaron Cantor. Daniel Joseph Kaplan. Alan Kathir. Stephen Stanley Kempa. Hunter Joseph Kendrick. Brian Benjamin Kennedy. Claire E. Kenny. Lisa Lucas Keppel. Timothy David Kirtland. Andrew Gareth Irving Kilberg. January Kim. Levant Karan. Cameron Tyler Kirby. Abigail Louise Kabrowski. Charlotte Caroline Greer Craich. Nikhil J. Kumar. Yevgenia Katepova. Emily Laura Kaveselis. Jennifer Mi Young K. Julia Ann Lakovara. Alexander Aaron Lawrence. Stephanie Lax. Samantha Rose Levitt. Andrew Lee. Junsuk Lee. Luke Lichty. Danton Liang. Ann Hampton Lippett. Christopher Adam Leszewski. Annalise Peters Lisson. Yichen Liu. Colin David Lloyd. Megan Elizabeth Loftus. Justin Andrew Lowman. Quan Liu. Katrina Michelle Long. Benjamin Israel Lubarski. Margot Brittany Ludmer. Caitlin Lynch. Bradley Thorne McGinnis. Shannon Christine Majores. James Chapman Manning. Charles Mao. Corrine Mao. Megan Lynn Mapes. Jennifer Noel Marrett. Jamie Michelle Marr. William David Marsh, Jr. Kayla Jane Marshall. Lisa Marie Marshall. Beckett Bouchard Marham. Kyle Allen Matthews. Caroline Elizabeth McInerney. Timothy James McLaughlin. Alexandra Marie Metter. Yaakov Shmuel Medenitz. Benedict Mertens. Roxana Ramirez Miller. Brian Jordan Mink. Nicholas Alexander Manjaluzzo. Trevor Allen Moore. Victoria Phillips Morphy. Michael Landy Mott. Marae Maya Mooney. Laura Ashley Musselman. Kate M. Nassif. Joseph Remington Neely. Colby Brown Nelson. Virginia Susan Newman. Elizabeth Ann Nolke. Alex Weston Nordholm. Beth Ann Norton. Amanda Schoon Oakes. Evan James O'Brien. Jessica Ann O'Connell. Timothy James Ogden. Patrick O'Malley. Amoraya Mayana Orr. Patrick Edward Owlett. Brian Michael Park. Han Park. Shannon Caitlin Parker. Stephen Calmery Parsley. Pooja Harshad Patel. Bradford Howland Patterson. Christopher Pavlaka. Matthew Daniel Perry. Andrew Obina Person. Nicholas Patrick Peterson. Lauren Marie Petrosky. Mary Claire Elizabeth Petty. Scott Ryan Phillips. Caitlin Rutha Piper. Shannon Marie Pollock. Emily Elizabeth Ponder. Jacqueline Elizabeth Price. Jill Sarah Pritzker. Richard R. Pugh. Blake Thomas Pulliam. Alexia Theodora Rod. Dana Suzanne Rasmussen. Jenna Lee Reiki. Jeremy Frank Regan. Melissa Riley Diakin. Donald John Reinhard II. Anne Catherine Hill Reeser. Kevin Thomas Richards. Catherine Richmond. Sean Maxwell Roberts. Cody Scott Rogers. Severio Romeo. Samuel Romano Rosati. Matthew Benjamin Roundtree. Catherine Elise Rumba. Carolyn Jean Rumer. Paula Assad Salamoon. Mario David Salas. Jason Paul Samblene. Sarah Elizabeth Thompson Schick. Jessica Brees Schiller. Emily Marlene Shermer. Caroline Susan Schmidt. Jonathan Samuel Schauman. Kathleen Hunter Shannon. Michelle Shin. Ethan Maxwell Simon. Terrell Simpson. Michael Robert Small, Jr. Brandon Todd Smith. Hanchang Sohn. Kirk Matthew Sosby. Clinton Ray South. Catherine Lynn Steele. Kristen Elise Stolpe. Kenneth Stout. Emily Catherine Stumhofer. Sean Herbert Suber. Margaret Louise Sullivan. Sabrina Asghari Talukder. Whitney Nikar Tansiwani. Andrew James Turgison. Andrew Thibault. Bradley Thompson. Colin Cassidy Thompson. Jessica Marie Thompson. Mariah Courier Thompson. Robert Thompson. Daniel Frederick Thornton. Jennifer Yojia Tien. Shannon McKinley Trailer. Joshua David Tully. Amanda Louise Turner. Susan K. Taverdi. Sarah Elizabeth Ulmer. Jennifer Erin Vogel. Sarah Ann Vonderbrink. Jesse Tipton Wallen. Catherine Karen Walton. Erin Haley Ward. Charles Clark Warthen. Adam Joseph Watts. Robert Clayton Weedman. Jennifer Ashley Weeks. Kendra Lynn Wergen. Jackie Werman. Natalie Race Whitaker. Liselot K. Whitbeck. Caitlin Faith Whiteside. Madison Claire Whitmore. Victoria Demerick Whitney. Kristen Andrea Witt. John Stephen Williams. Tunji Williams. Ruth Irene Windberg. Eleanor Anderson Wynn. Jeremy Youngping Wang. Benjamin Charles Wood. Isaac Wood. William Thomas Woodrow III. Sarah Heim Johnson Wooten. Jesse Wilder Wright. Jessica Lee Wright. Margaret Yang. Amir Kucheksadeh Yazdi. Alexander Yee. Lauren Elaine Yetchison. Kiwan Zhang. Michael Zhao. Tina Zhou. John Holmes Cantrell. Alejandro Fuster. Andrew Wesley Green. Daniel Simon Guanera. Lansing Corbett Lee. Adebayo Akeem Owalewa. Ravi Rahman Smith. Joseph Benjamin Tyson III. For the degree of Master of Laws, Funjin Ao. Nezahe Boran Demirs. Fernanda Cavallero Freire. Giancarlo Celis Noriega. Shueme Ding. Safen Fong. Camila Alves Ifantes. Andre Luis Fredi. Mauricio Gim. Dimas Mohammed Halif. Jinyoung Her. Akira Hiramatsu. Thomas Hoa. Kai Hoshino. Weiyun Shu'u. Hu Chejang. Maria Uguez Arthur. Kyle Iadiosico de Faria Lima. Takeshi Iitani. Karen Janssens. Kwangbuk Kim. Florian Knur. Nieni Gu. Jongyun Lee. Irv Charles Lemoyne. Teresa Martins. Scott Anthony McDonald. Eugene Nakano. Paul-Jean Stéphane Daniel Mayer. Takeshi Nemoto. Kitaro Nishikawa. Hideyuki Nishimura. Rodolfo Noble Medina. Gulardi Norbentoro. Simone Oliveira. Anna Patvakanovna. Cyrus Alexander Puyan. Na Zhen. Shiro Sadakane. Mikiyo Sonoda. Henry Surintangsu. Naota Suzuki. Tatsuya Takazoe. Yau Tamura. Michitaka Ueno. Jose Carlos Vera. Rafael Vietti da Fonseca. Fan Wang. Vera Caldas Wilkinson. Maximilian Wozgin. Hiroshi Yamauchi. Xing In. Xiaomang Zhang. Chang Zhou. Vincent Zhou. And for the degree of Doctor of Juridical Science, Mustafa Teoman Euchre. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the calling of the roll of the graduates.
Although we have concluded the roll of 2014 graduates, I have one more diploma to deliver. A few weeks ago, I received from President Sullivan's office a diploma dated June 15, 1959, conferring the degree of Bachelor of Laws on Edward Moore Kennedy. Like Judge Sachs the year before, the late Senator Kennedy did not participate in his graduation ceremony for personal reasons. He was involved in preparations for his older brother's 1960 presidential run. Moreover, he did not let the university registrar know where he wanted his diploma sent. Ordinarily, it does not take us 55 years to straighten out this sort of thing, but better late than never. So I'm happy to ask Congressman Kennedy to accept this diploma on behalf of the late senator's family. Today, you join nearly 17,000 Virginia graduates who have gone before you. Most of those graduates remain actively involved with the law school, and we hope you will as well. In any given year, well over 1,000 of them return to this building. They come to teach as adjuncts or short course instructors, to judge first-year oral arguments and moot court competitions, to speak to student groups, to help select the recipients of prizes, scholarships, and honorariums, to participate in the governance of the law school through service on the Law School Foundation Board of Trustees and the Alumni Council. They come, of course, to recruit our students for their law firms and other organizations. They return in great numbers for their reunions, and some have the pleasure to return to see their children graduate from the law school. We hope to see you often, and we hope that you will always feel as much a part of the Virginia family as you have over the past 3 years, and will take pride and pleasure in your association with the law school and with the class of 2014. This concludes the ceremony, but there is a reception waiting for us inside, and you are cordially invited to linger for a while and wait out the traffic. Farewell and safe travels.
That is Stewie.